would have thought that Ellen DeGeneres, once regarded as one of Hollywood's most beloved personalities, would become the subject of some of the internet's most controversial discussions? Known for her cheerful public image, generosity, and years of daytime television success, Ellen built a reputation that few could have imagined would later be questioned by online investigators and conspiracy theorists. In recent years, claims attempting to connect Ellen to the wider Jeffrey Epstein controversy have spread rapidly across social media and alternative media platforms. Some commentators have even suggested that newly released Epstein-related records may reveal previously overlooked connections between powerful figures in entertainment, politics, and business. Whether those claims hold any weight remains a matter of debate, but they have certainly captured public attention.
Jeffrey Epstein's victims have long said they believe they were being filmed by the offender. And this footage from a spy cam-style camera inside Epstein's Palm Beach house appears to show just that.
I told him the devil,
100%.
the devil
himself.
The devil himself said, "I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life."
Do you think you're the devil himself?
Is there an added level of fear with regard to Epstein and some of the celebrity or well-known powerful people who are involved here?
Of course there is.
Absolutely. I'm probably more afraid of the people we don't know about.
Yeah.
According to these theories, Ellen's name appears within a broader collection of Epstein-related records that reference hundreds of high-profile individuals. Supporters of the theory argue that these records highlight the interconnected nature of elite social circles and raise questions about who may have crossed paths with Epstein over the years.
Ellen DeGeneres is named in the Epstein documents, and that part is real. Her name appears in the broader index of over 300 high-profile individuals that show up across the investigative materials. Flight logs, communications, third-party interviews, peripheral records.
One detail that has attracted particular attention is the repeated appearance of the word pizza in discussions connected to Ellen throughout her career. Online researchers have revisited several public moments involving the television host, suggesting that what once appeared ordinary may deserve a second look. The example most frequently referenced comes from the 2014 Academy Awards. During the live broadcast, Ellen famously surprised the audience by ordering pizza for celebrities seated throughout the venue. At the time, the moment was celebrated as a humorous and spontaneous bit that helped make the ceremony memorable.
And so if I do, I don't want it to go to waste. Who will eat pizza if I... Jennifer? Yes? Harrison? Yes? Yes? All right. Too large? What do you think? I'm going to order some pizza. That's what I'll do. Please welcome our next presenter, tonight's big winner of our Scratcher Lotto card, Bradley Cooper.
Years later, however, conspiracy theorists began revisiting the incident through a very different lens. Those promoting the theory argue that references to pizza appear unusually often in conversations involving celebrities and influential public figures. In their view, the frequency of these references has led some researchers to question whether there could be a deeper meaning behind them.
My favorite meal? Pizza. I can eat pizza 7 days a week. I don't care where it is. I like thin pizza. New York and Boston, my favorites, but Philly makes...
Interest in the subject intensified when online investigators began examining emails connected to individuals within Epstein's circle. According to supporters of the theory, the word pizza appeared repeatedly throughout released communications. They also point to redacted information within some of those records, arguing that the missing details have fueled additional speculation about what may or may not have been discussed. The controversy itself traces back to the Pizzagate theory that emerged during the 2016 election cycle. While critics dismissed the theory as baseless, supporters argue that later revelations surrounding Epstein caused many people to revisit claims that had previously been ignored.
Is Pizzagate. Let that sink in for a minute. Jeffrey Epstein is Pizzagate. 10 years ago, Pizzagate was by far the #1 trending topic on Twitter. But the claim of elites who preyed on children was so insane that Pizzagate was shrugged off as a wild fever dream of a conspiracy theory.
Right. And that's kind of, again, I'm not one to ever discount something unless I've done the research myself and I can actually discount it. But I certainly wasn't chasing this down either. So I see this and I trust Ben Swann. He's done a lot of really great work on a lot of topics from Ukraine to Israel to many different topics Ben has been really on top of, and I think he does really credible, really excellent work. So I saw this and I thought, wow, okay, let me look a little bit more into this. So I watched Ben's episode, and in it are these old clips from when he was working on a mainstream news channel, a local news channel, I believe. And let me just show you. And now this original episode you can watch that whole thing. It's about 8-9 minutes long. This second clip is also, this is just a clip from it, but I want to show you what was aired years ago. This was in 2017, and I watched this one in full, which the link is down below, and that one really convinced me that Pizzagate is real. Here's a sample of that.
Now, to begin, I need to show you a 2007 unclassified FBI document. That document, according to the FBI, contains commonly used symbols by pedophiles to express their preference in children. I want you to see these images here. These are the images. Notice this one on the end, the triangle. That image signifies something called boy love. The pizza place next door to Comet Ping Pong Pizza, Besta Pizza, well, this was their logo until only a few weeks ago. Clearly, you can see that the Besta logo actually contains the same image, I'm going to show you again, as that boy lover image. Besta Pizza changed their logo, and there it is now. They removed the triangle. Also, Comet Ping Pong, owned by Alphantis, is the place where a number of performance artists perform regularly. Two of the groups that perform there, who you can see advertised, by the way, on this Comet Ping Pong poster, include a group called Heavy Breathing and another group called Sexting.
At the time, many observers rejected those ideas outright. Yet believers argue that ongoing document releases and investigations have prompted a renewed examination of earlier allegations. Whether justified or not, these discussions continue to generate intense debate online.
Actually, going through your files, another thing I want to get your thoughts on is the reference to pizza. We talked about it earlier. I'll give you another example here. Epstein sends a message to someone. She looks pregnant, reacting to a photo. And the client replies back to Epstein, "You mean radiating a soft glow with the look of bliss and excitement? Yeah, that's the pizza." I cannot be clearer than this, that this is a code word. It makes no sense in that context whatsoever. And this, on top of the example I gave you earlier, when his virologist gave him the medicine for having an erection, erectile dysfunction, I assume, or it could be even Viagra, and then told him to wash his hands, go have pizza and grape soda. That's been mentioned time and time again. You know, having adult men, successful men that are very health oriented, constantly talk about pizza and pizza with grape soda, which I've never heard before.
Yeah, I've never heard of pizza and grape soda before this. I don't know if that specific combination was part of the whole Pizzagate thing, but it's definitely mentioned a lot because I saw that phrase, so I looked it up and was like, is this actually like in there multiple times? And it most definitely is. And
just, you know, what's weird is just having so many emails talking about things like this, like beef jerky here. Another email subject is beef jerky. A small insulated bag would be just fine. I wouldn't recommend checking it. No need for crazy amounts of ice. One should do. The titles is beef jerky. High redacted. There's one bag of beef jerky in the fridge at 71st. Please get it. And also redacted has more at her place. Please get it from her as well. And bring it all with you. I suppose it needs to be in a cold insulated bag, right? Now, I'm not a cook. Just silly question. Beef jerky, do you need to put it in a cold insulated bag?
The whole point of having beef jerky is you can never have to refrigerate it. Yeah.
Exactly my point. So you got beef jerky, he's telling him to put it in a cold insulated bag. And in the email prior saying no need for crazy amounts of ice. So you agree there's just too many indicators that this is more than just food.
It's worth looking into for sure. Yes, like there are some that it's, you know, the one thing I try to be careful with is I don't want to say every reference to beef jerky is something awful, because there's some people whose names aren't redacted. Maybe it's just an innocent email about beef jerky, but there certainly seems to be more to it, and it's definitely something that's worth exploring more for sure, especially the refrigerated part. That makes no sense for anybody who has any understanding of how food works whatsoever. So that is weird.
I agree.
As interest in these theories continued to grow, attention shifted beyond documents and emails to something far more unexpected: the set design of Ellen's daytime talk show. Some online observers claim they noticed visual similarities between certain elements of the show's layout and structures that have been associated with Epstein's private island. They pointed to features such as blue and white color schemes, palm trees, and symmetrical architectural patterns. To many people, these similarities seemed coincidental, but supporters of the theory argued otherwise, sharing side-by-side comparisons and claiming that the resemblance was too striking to be ignored. Whether meaningful or purely accidental, the comparisons quickly became another talking point within the broader discussion.
And the Epstein stuff coming out now is, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. But
well, you guys were talking right before the podcast. Jamie said there was a big dump. What happened with the big dump? You said there was a big dump today and they f***ed up? That was your take. They f***ed up?
The f*** up was that people have found out that the redactions weren't really redacted.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's like, that's a big mistake. Like, you can copy and paste and put it in another document and see the redactions.
Oh, like a Photoshop deal? Yeah. Like you could get the layers away?
Yeah.
Oh, whoopsies. That's what happens. You get people working for the government that are dorks.
The speculation didn't stop there. According to some online investigators, searches for the word pizza within Epstein-related records once produced significantly more results than they appeared to later on. These claims led some people to question whether certain records had been altered, removed, or hidden from public view. Around the same time, attention began turning towards Stephen Twitch Boss, the longtime DJ and beloved personality from Ellen's show. Rumors circulating online suggested that people close to Boss allegedly believed he had discovered information that deeply troubled him. According to these theories, he was considering major changes in his life and wanted to distance himself and his family from the Hollywood lifestyle. Those rumors gained traction following Boss's death in December 2022. Reports stated that he was found in a motel room and had left behind a note. While authorities provided an official explanation, conspiracy theories quickly emerged, with some questioning whether the full story had ever been made public.
Because you're going to have her wear it, and...
All right.
Yo, Ellen, we go so far back. You don't tell these people how far back we go.
I know, but I wear T-shirts. I don't know what that means. Anyway, all right. Let's...
I mean...
You hold that.
Okay.
All right.
I got this team too. The joke didn't work.
No, it's okay.
I don't want no problems.
No, it's okay.
No, hold on. Hey, so, cheers.
What if I told you there was a correlation between 7M, Twitch's passing, and the end of Ellen DeGeneres? Well, strap up because I'm about to blow your minds. So everyone's talking about the new documentary on Netflix, Dancing for the Devil. Well, this documentary is way deeper than you think. Now, it all starts with this man, Robert Shin. Robert Shin is the owner of the talent management company, also known as 7M Films. He is also the owner of the Shekinah Church. Now, the Shekinah Church does not have a good reputation. They've had tons of lawsuits ranging from human trafficking to breaking labor laws and so on. But Mr. Shin here thought he could make some big money in the media industry, so he created 7M. And boy, has he made some money. Not only have they appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show multiple times, they also did a halftime show, worked with Dr. Dre, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, 50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar, Snoop Dogg, you name it, they probably worked with them. Enters this couple. Now, this is James and Miranda Derrick, okay? The documentary was mostly about Miranda, but James plays a huge role. James runs 7M. So remember how I said they collabed with a lot of famous artists? Well, they also collabed with Twitch and his wife, Allison. Now, as we all know, Twitch's passing was kind of mysterious. But let's take a look at the date. It happened on December 13th, 2022. Now, one of the first collabs video he did with 7M was in January 28th of 2022. So a year later, he was gone. So interesting enough, to be associated with the Shekinah Church or its entities, you have to sign an agreement. So according to the testimonies of ex-members and the recordings of Robert Shin, the church encourages members to, end quote, die to themselves, end quote, and to their families. Now, what I'm wondering is, did Twitch sign that agreement? Now, again, let's look at the date. Twitch tragically passed away December 13th, 2022. Well, guess whose show was canceled 5 months later? Ellen DeGeneres on May 26, 2022. The fact that Twitch, his wife, Ellen, 7M were all so closely related and this all happened is just crazy to me. It also makes a lot of sense why Ellen's been hiding out and no one's heard a word from her until like her upcoming comedy tour all of a sudden.
As these discussions spread, online speculation expanded to include other figures connected to Ellen's past. Among them was actress Anne Heche, Ellen's former partner, whose tragic death also became the subject of countless theories and unanswered questions across social media. For some observers, the timing and circumstances surrounding several high-profile incidents involving people connected to Ellen appeared suspicious. Others argued that such conclusions relied heavily on coincidence and speculation. Regardless, these discussions continued to gain attention online.
Standing in front of the house where actress Anne Heche crashed her car back in August 2022. A crash that has left more questions than answers. That morning, Anne walked into a hair shop in Venice, California. The owner said she walked in, saw a red wig up on the shelf, wanted the red wig. He told her it wasn't styled. She said no worries, made the purchase. He recognized who she was and asked for a selfie. They took a selfie together, which is still up on his Instagram. The owner of the wig shop, Richard Glass, said that she was completely normal, didn't seem impaired, she wasn't slurring her words, thought the interaction seemed completely normal. Just after that seemingly normal encounter, she was captured behind the wheel of her blue Mini Cooper and was also involved with 2 hit-and-run incidents earlier that morning before the crash. In this photo taken from the scene of one of the hit-and-runs, you can see the red wig on her passenger seat as well as what looks like a vodka bottle in the cup holder of her car. To most people, that photo looks like proof that she was drinking. But here's the thing. According to the coroner's toxicology report, there was no alcohol in her system reported during the time of the crash. No active drugs were found either, just small traces of cocaine and cannabinoids from prior use. So if she wasn't intoxicated, why was she driving like she was running from something? Anne's car was captured on doorbell camera footage, zooming down this street at an extremely high rate of speed. As you can see, there's a stop sign here. She blew completely through that stop sign, somehow managed not to hit any oncoming traffic. This is a very busy street, and plowed straight into this home right here, and was trapped so deep inside that the house and the car caught fire, and she wasn't able to be rescued for 45 minutes. Most disturbing part of this case is aerial helicopter footage showed Anne Heche being put onto a stretcher. You can see a body in some type of bag on a stretcher being wheeled into the back of an ambulance, when all of a sudden the zipper breaks open and you see Anne Heche emerge suddenly out of this body bag, what looks like a body bag, and prop herself up as if she's trying to get off the stretcher or get out of the bag. They push her back down and she's put into the back of the ambulance. If you look at this footage, which is still on YouTube, comment section is ablaze with all kinds of different conspiracy theories about what that truly meant. Some people in the comments saying she came back to life, while others saying she wasn't in a body bag, it was a burn protection bag. Either way, it's one of the most unsettling clips I have ever seen. Anne was rushed to the hospital after that clip, placed in a coma, sadly never woke up. Days later, she was sadly declared brain dead from an anoxic brain injury. Her death ruled an accident by smoke inhalation and burns. But even with her death being ruled an accident, things still don't make sense, and there are a ton of unanswered questions. What was the alcohol bottle doing in her car if she wasn't intoxicated and it wasn't drugs? Why was she driving at such a high rate of speed as if she was running away from something? Was it a medical emergency or something more sinister that people aren't talking about?
Supporters of these theories often point to what they see as a pattern involving individuals connected to powerful circles within Hollywood. While there is no direct evidence linking Ellen to any wrongdoing, some commentators argue that the entertainment industry has a long history of secrets, influence, and hidden power structures. One journalist who has frequently explored these broader themes is Whitney Webb. Over the years, Webb has spoken extensively about Epstein, intelligence connections, and the networks of influence that she believes operate behind the scenes. At the same time, she has emphasized the importance of relying on documented evidence and avoiding claims that could place innocent people in danger.
I don't feel like I can guarantee anyone's security.
That's intense. Let me ask, how many people have actually reached out to you who are insiders saying, hey, can we talk offline because I have some information that I want to share with you?
I mean, a couple, but again, you know, I don't live in the US, so it's hard for me just online to know that they're for real. And I don't want to, again, put anyone in a position of danger. So I tend to go with things that are public record, open source. But people that do want to work with those types of sources, everything that's happened with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, and even you know, with what happened with Snowden, and then a lot of the people that, for example, leaked documents or shared documents with The Intercept, for example, 3 of those guys went to prison. And that was after Snowden and Assange. So I think there's definitely been an intentional chilling effect on that sharing of transparency. And I think obviously that's in great detriment.
Now, Whitney, what about your personal, like, do you ever worry about them? I mean, because it's completely possible. They could get to somebody in jail and say that he committed. Do you fear for your own safety at all?
Well, I mean, people ask me that a lot, but frankly, you know, the state of the world today, I feel like it's incumbent on all of us to stand up and say something. And again, I'm not trying to work with like classified information and stuff, you know. I think if I was, it would be a different situation for sure. But I think also at the same time, like if you live your life in fear, that's going to impede you from doing stuff that's important. And, I'm really grateful for the platform I have today. And, I have, I guess, an ability to put information together that helps, people see some of these power structures that aren't necessarily visible to everyone. And I feel like it's, my duty and responsibility to do that because frankly, the more people, we really need to raise awareness, I think, about these, power structures, these situations and how we got here.
Webb has pointed to several high-profile cases that she believes have had a chilling effect on whistleblowers and transparency efforts. Among the examples she has discussed are Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, both of whom became internationally known after exposing information that powerful institutions may have preferred to keep hidden. She has also highlighted cases involving individuals who provided sensitive documents to journalists and media organizations. According to Webb, the consequences faced by some of those individuals sent a powerful message about the risks associated with exposing information that challenges powerful interests. From her perspective, these events have contributed to an environment in which potential whistleblowers may think twice before coming forward. More broadly, Webb argues that the Epstein case may represent only a small piece of a much larger puzzle involving influence, corruption, intelligence relationships, and long-standing networks of power.
World of corruption.
Yeah.
Is he kind of the Rosetta Stone?
Yeah, I think it's sort of like a meta scandal. You're looking at someone who really had, I guess, for lack of a better metaphor, had his hands in a lot of pies, right?
Yeah, right.
So he was sort of at the center of a lot of scandals, but not necessarily at the top, right? I think he was more maybe middle management in a sense, but very central to a lot of these things going on that sort of these networks in which he inhabits are involved in, numerous acts of corruption simultaneously.
Yeah.
And he, is there involved in many of them, but not necessarily at the top level, right?
So was he a spy?
I think he definitely had intelligence connections, and there's a lot, to suggest that was the case. I think one of the earliest hints we heard of that was having a Secretary of Labor, Alex Acosta, under Trump, say that one of the reasons he was pressured into giving Epstein a sweetheart deal during his first arrest in Florida was because he had been told by unspecified actors that Epstein belonged to intelligence. But that's kind of, what exactly does that mean? Was he an asset? Was he on the payroll? Which intelligence agency? Multiple intelligence agencies?
Right.
When you have his close association with someone like Ghislaine Maxwell in the mix, and her father had affiliations with numerous intelligence agencies, it really is an open question.
He was kind of a bad guy.
That broader discussion eventually leads to Ghislaine Maxwell and her father, Robert Maxwell. According to Webb, Robert Maxwell maintained connections to multiple intelligence organizations throughout his lifetime. Because of those alleged relationships, she argues that questions surrounding intelligence involvement in the Epstein case cannot be dismissed outright. Webb has described Robert Maxwell as a highly influential figure whose activities extended across media, politics, international business, and intelligence circles. In her view, understanding his role may help explain some of the larger forces operating around Epstein and the people connected to him. Whether one agrees with those conclusions or not, the possibility of intelligence connections remains one of the most debated aspects of the entire Epstein story.
Robert Maxwell was very interested in having his family be like the Kennedy family, a political power dynasty. And that's part of why he started moving into New York City around, just a year or two before he ended up dying. And Ghislaine Maxwell was sent to New York sort of to be his emissary.
Wow.
Into the U.S., and he wanted her actually to marry a Kennedy, and this is attested to in past mainstream media reports. And you can see his efforts to get her close to, I think, one of the sons of Robert F. Kennedy, and also John F. Kennedy Jr., trying to get her sort of in that social tier, because he sort of saw that as, would advance his power and also, that of his children. And I think if you look a lot at the psychology of Robert Maxwell, he seems to have had narcissistic elements, and that could be because of the trauma of his past. And a lot of times narcissistic parents see their children as extensions of themselves.
Yeah.
And so, he's looking at how to build an empire and using his children to that effect. And you sort of see that with the psychology of Ghislaine Maxwell as well.
So is Ghislaine, was she part and parcel of from the beginning, or was she, kind of a good girl, idealistic, comes over here, knows that dad wants to put her into powerful positions, but not shopping women?
I think it's a lot more complicated than that. You have to look at her early history. The favorite son of Robert Maxwell was originally Michael Maxwell. He was in a vegetative state after a car crash, I think when he was 15. And that happened shortly after, just a few days after Ghislaine was born. So her family members and she herself have attested to that she was basically neglected for the first 3 years of her life and even developed childhood anorexia. Things like that. And then, not a few years after, she becomes the favorite child. So she goes from having this complete lack of parental attention to being sort of showered in it by Robert Maxwell. And that obviously is going to have a psychological impact on someone. And in addition, she was basically managed by her father from a very early age. He tried to manage her romantic life. He tried to manage what job she would have, and she was very dependent on him. So when he is dead in 1991, it makes sense that she would attach herself to someone with a lot of the similar characteristics, right?
So Dad didn't know about Jeffrey Epstein, wasn't alive at that point?
Well, the allegation have been made by people that worked with Robert Maxwell in the 80s that Jeffrey Epstein was seen in his offices frequently in the United Kingdom.
Broader discussion eventually leads to Ghislaine Maxwell and her father, Robert Maxwell. According to Webb, Robert Maxwell maintained connections to multiple intelligence organizations throughout his lifetime. Because of those alleged relationships, she argues that questions surrounding intelligence involvement in the Epstein case cannot be dismissed outright. Webb has described Robert Maxwell as a highly influential figure whose activities extended across media, politics, international business, and intelligence circles. In her view, understanding his role may help explain some of the larger forces operating around Epstein and the people connected to him. Whether one agrees with those conclusions or not, the possibility of intelligence connections remains one of the most debated aspects of the entire Epstein story.
DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now.
No, it wasn't. That is one of those moments that lives on in this Epstein saga. Pam Bondi making claims she could not support, later ousted as Attorney General. She was back in Washington, though, and this is a big deal today, going under oath, facing lawmakers' questions under the force of law about Epstein and specifically the Trump DOJ's handling. Now, there was the effort to have this as a more public on-camera hearing, but then she was fired. House Republicans changed the terms. Still, though, useful to get her talking to Congress at all. Here, though, Bondi wouldn't have to answer the questions technically under oath, and the proceedings would not be videotaped, although it's similar to under oath when you speak to Congress because there are consequences if you lie and the DOJ wants to do anything about it. They released her opening statement where she said the DOJ did blunder on redactions, that there were errors. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute. Is she outing herself? Is Pam Bondi saying she made the errors? No. This is Washington. This predates the Trump era where officials, if they're ever saying something bad happened, they're probably following it up with who's to blame. In her case, she blames her replacement, acting AG Todd Blanche. I delegated oversight over the process to him, she says. And so today was youthful in some ways, although House Democrats said that had there been true cooperation and transparency, it could have been far more useful.
A disservice to the American people that this interview is not being recorded, videotaped, and then released to the American public. She said, and I quote, "Acting AG Blanche was managing the entire investigation."
Pam Bondi confirmed that they had 6 million files in their possession and have only released 3 million.
It's disgusting. It's a cover-up.
Those questions intensified after reports emerged suggesting that a substantial portion of Epstein-related material had not yet been made public. The revelation sparked criticism from lawmakers, commentators, and transparency advocates who argued that the public was still being denied access to important information. Several officials questioned whether enough was being done to ensure openness and accountability. Critics argued that if authorities were truly committed to transparency, more information would be released and key proceedings would be made available for public review. Others countered that investigations involving sensitive material often require restrictions and redactions. Nevertheless, the perception that significant information remains hidden has fueled ongoing speculation and mistrust. For many observers, the controversy is no longer just about Epstein himself. It has become a broader debate about transparency, accountability, and whether powerful individuals receive protection that ordinary people do not.
This panel, mainly the Democrats, are saying we got to get Kash Patel in here. I mean, we got to get him under oath to answer questions about why did the FBI scrub all these files, and is that actually true? And if so, why did they do it before it got to the DOJ? You know, Bondi said today, yeah, we made mistakes, but that still is not giving us the answers that we need to really find out what's going on in these Epstein files.
Understood. Josh, I want to also point out the sort of the tentacles of this, because there were two DOJ officials at today's interview. She's, of course, the recent but former Attorney General. Democrats were critical of that. They said that they repeatedly stepped in to stop Bondi from answering questions about those Trump conversations, which we discussed. They're pretty high-ranking, and reporters pressed one of them.
What's your response to criticism that the presence of the department was a potential conflict for Ms. Bondi, given that her interests might diverge from the department?
That is silly and not something that is for her to consider, and she apparently didn't see it as such.
But why did you tell her not to answer specific questions?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into my reasoning.
The Orwellian onion there is they go into the secret meeting to help someone avoid questions, and they come out to dodge questions about the questions they helped someone dodge. Washington.
And to say, well, she didn't have to dodge. I guess she decided to dodge on.
With so many questions still unanswered, the Epstein story continues to generate intense public interest years after his death. New documents, renewed investigations, and ongoing political debates ensure that the controversy remains far from over. Whether future disclosures will finally provide the answers people have been seeking remains to be seen. But if additional Epstein-related files are eventually released, one question continues to loom over the entire story. Whose names will appear next? Let us know what you think in the comments below.